Hey everyone, welcome to Comedicine. I'm your host, Dr. Sarah Boston. We have a super fun episode today. Thank you for being here. We are talking to Stephanie Goss, who is a certified veterinary practice manager, but she started out as a theater kid. She went to school for music and theater, and then she got into teaching, and then she took a little career break, and then her mom was like, hey, you need to get a job. And she kind of fell into veterinary medicine and this whole other career. She was a receptionist, she was a veterinary technician, and then she became a veterinary practice manager. And it seems like all of the parts of her as a teacher and a theater person and a theater manager kind of all came together as a certified veterinary practice manager. So we get into all that. I love this chat. We also talk about our mutual friend, Dr. Andy Roark, friend of this podcast, previous guest, famous veterinarian. Love making connections like that. I hope you love this chat as much as I did. Welcome to Stephanie Goss. Welcome, Stephanie, to Comedicine.
Thank you.
It's so fun to have you on.
I'm so excited to be here. I have been a big Sarah Boston fan for a long time because you are friends with our mutual friends, Dr. Andy Roark, and Andy has talked about you for a long time. You have been this like mythical character in the world, and I am excited to actually like engage and interact with you.
I am
for
too.
real.
Andy's mythical to me too. It's a funny thing because I've never lived in the same place as him, but I just like it's like, you know, you just meet people and you're like, oh
yeah,
I like that guy.
Yeah,
Like
good people, good people.
Yeah, and
exactly.
I also have something I like to call the transitive property of friendship. Doesn't always work, but it's like if A is friends with B and A is friends with C, then B and C
are also friends.
Usually friends.
Or your
Sometimes,
friends.
like occasionally, it's like A and C are too competitive for B's attention, or I don't know, or that can't do the math.
It gets messy in the middle.
It can get messy, but usually transitive property of friendship does work.
Okay.
So welcome to my friend Stephanie on the
Thank
program.
you.
And
Thank you.
I like when there's like, so most of the co-medicine guests are like science nerds. Sorry, everyone, love you.
Yeah.
I'm a science nerd, but like they were like science, medicine, vet med, nursing, whatever, like that was what they're doing.
Yes.
And then they sort of branched into theater, but you are an opposite.
I'm backwards.
You're backwards, which I love.
Yes.
So
it's the story of my life.
being backwards. That's okay. You don't have to be like everyone. So your origin story is going to be like, usually the origin story is the medical side, but your origin story is more the theatrical side.
Theater.
So wherever you want to jump in, tell us about your kind of like origin in theater and the arts.
Okay. So it's a big part of my bio, I feel like, because I had a whole life, it feels like, before vet med. And that's the part I fell into quite by accident. But I have been in the theater arts since I was a kid. My dad did theatrical lighting and sound. And so I grew up in the theater. And I grew up going to shows and helping my dad rig lights and run sound. And I started at a really young age being exposed to the arts. One of my favorite stories to tell is my first concert as a little kid was Carlos Santana in a bar here in the Bay Area. Little tiny like club bar. And there's a picture of me sitting on a speaker stack as they break everything down. So I've been in the arts for a long time, and I grew up in California in part. And so I was around a ton of great arts in the San Francisco Bay Area. So I went off to university. I knew I wanted to do theater. I did it all through high school. And I did the typical theater kid thing, which was I'm going to go to New York. And I got into NYU, and I was terrified to move across the country and live on my own. And so I wound up staying home, close to home, and took a spot at a small liberal arts university not far from home and in the North Bay. And Sonoma State was great for me because we had all of the big city talent because we were close enough to San Francisco and the Bay Area. So we had wonderful professors who were associated with some of the most quality theaters in the Bay Area, certainly, but in the country and in part as well. And so I had a lot of opportunities to do a lot of great work. And so I majored in theater arts and music, and I was always interested in the back half. I never wanted to be on stage.
Oh.
That was not my thing. Andy, that is how our partnership has worked all these years working together, because he is center stage and I am behind the scenes, and I will get up on stage, but that's not my happy place, which everybody always says to me, I could never tell, but I have horrific stage fright.
Really?
Like horrific.
Still?
Yes, still to this day. And it's gotten better, but really only in like the last 2 years. I've been working with Andy now for 8 years. And up until about a year and a half or 2 years ago, I still would throw up before every presentation, every workshop. Every time I speak at a conference, it's just my body. I'm backwards. I told you.
Okay, I just have a question. 'Cause I'm trying to remember now. I heard an interview with an athlete, and he's young, and I can't remember his name. I think he was a Canadian athlete. He was in the Olympics, and he said before every race he vomited.
Yeah.
And he was like, if he didn't, his coach would worry, or he would worry. Like, he's just like, he kind of said, you just made me think of it, because you're like, that's my body. It's like, this stressful thing's happening. I'm going to puke or whatever. Like, and actually I was doing comedy last night. I was hosting, and I shook this, like, it's very common, like, when one comic's coming off and the host is coming on, you shake hands. And this guy, like, just sweat. Like, his hand, I was like, holy shit, this guy is, like, nervous, you know? And, like, no one knows. Like, obviously, I didn't know watching him. But then when I touched his hand, I was like, what's happening, dude? Didn't realize it. So, like, okay, when you say that, like, because you're having to... I can't believe you did a theater arts degree and you still had stage fright. Like, that's...
Yeah. And I had to do... So I have two bachelors, one in music and one in theater. And my music degree, I wanted to be a teacher. And so my music degree was in music education, and you have to do performance piece to sit for graduation. So I had to do performance, and I enjoyed it, but it was never like being center stage was never. I was in a couple of shows in the theater department, like, but it was never my happy place. Like, put me in a production role, put me as stage manager. I'm in all black, like, let me fade into the background. And I like making other people's jobs easier. It's the teacher, the helper in me. And so I would rather do the backstage stuff. I have done performance, and I have gotten more comfortable with the spotlight. Andy has forced me into it even when I'm nervous, and it's been really good for me. And so, like, the last year and a half or 2 years, it's gotten a lot better. I think just because I have had, I hate to say that Andy's right, because I was like telling him when he's wrong, but he was just like, you just got to get the repetition and you just got to do it. And I think I've been doing so much work between the podcast and workshops and speaking that it has definitely calmed itself down, but I'm still that athlete where if I'm not at least feeling like I'm going to puke, I'm worried that there's something wrong.
Something's wrong, because you don't have that adrenaline rush that kind of like, you know, but you can use that, right? Like you can use the nerves and stuff. I should just mention, I don't know if we said, we're talking about Dr. Andy Roark, because there are people in the world. There's people in the world who don't know who we're talking about, because Comedicine is a broad net of
Dr. Andy Roark.
Dr. Andy Roark. He's a veterinarian. Check him out. It's quite a character. Actually, you know, I have this theory, and you can tell me if it's correct or not. But like, okay, I am more in the like media horror, like give me attention. Like if that's not blatantly obvious that I like, you know, I like to be on stage. I like to be a comedian. I like to, even as a veterinarian in that part of my career, I like to be lecturing. So I just have to admit, you know, anytime there was like a TV show coming to the hospital or coming, you know, most veterinarians are like hiding in a kennel, or like, I don't want anything. I'm like, where's the camera? Like where's my light? Yeah. So anyway, I just have to, you know, that's who I am. But
I love it.
I mean, there's obviously a role for agents, directors, production managers, and I'm not sure if this is true. You can tell me. It seems like that would probably be an easier role, because like I see some of these like big agents, and I'm like, what did they do to be an agent? I'm like, oh, they just started being an like, okay, oh, this is a good idea. Let me piss off agents. It's a good career move. God. Wasn't I just telling you about how I audition? I don't get anything. No, but I just wonder if that's an easier path. And I had a classmate in comedy school who it wasn't really working for him. And I was like, you should be an agent, because he's so personable. And I think he was really insulted. But I was like, I think he'd be an amazing agent. Anyway, is that true? Yeah. Is there any truth to that?
I think there is probably some, just in the sense that there are less people, right? Like I met a million people in school who wanted to be stars, who you know wanted to be in TV or Broadway or whatever, and there are far less people who have the defined passion to say, I want to be a stage manager, or I want to be an agent. There's still a lot of people, and the competition is fierce, but it's nowhere near like what it is for actors, I feel like, or for people who want to be on center stage, you know, want to be stars, whether you're a dancer or actor, comedian, like there's just more people. And so I think from that perspective, you're spot on that there's definitely a lesser resistance on the path to get there for sure. I was the only kid in my whole school who was interested in production management. And so I got to create my own curriculum and figure out like what I wanted to study when it came to business. And so I learned the business side of an industry from theater versus from veterinary medicine. And so I graduated university and I started teaching. I taught at the university, but I also I wanted to teach high school. And so to teach high school, which everybody says, okay, you're crazy, but I love kids. I love teenagers. And one of the pet projects that I was involved in as a kid was a performing arts for kids who are disadvantaged, at risk, or otherwise in trouble. And so having had that exposure, I was like, dude, teenagers are a pain in the ass, but they're also really cool. Oh, can we swear? Sorry. I should have.
Oh yeah. This is Canadian based. Don't worry about that. Anything goes here. Yeah.
Good.
We encourage it actually on Comedicine. We encourage. I actually was going to tell you that at the beginning because Americans come on and they're like, oh, can I swear? And then the British people come on and they're just like,
so yeah. Yeah. So, everybody thinks that they're a pain in the ass, but that's what I wanted to do. And so I started teaching and a bunch of work. I wanted to teach theater, but you have to teach a core subject, right? To teach any of the extracurriculars, because so many schools have cut, even back when I started teaching a million years ago, we're cutting extracurriculars. So you had to have a core subject. And I was like, English, history, math, like none of that shit interests me. So I got certified in health sciences and sex ed. And I was like, I'm going to teach that as my core subject. Someone has to teach it.
Yeah.
So that was actually my teaching cert was in health sciences. And then I taught theater and music as extracurriculars.
You're like the coolest teacher. You're like theater and sex.
I mean, let's do it.
And music, whatever. Yeah.
And there's an intersection, right? Like there is absolutely an intersection of those three things in adult life as there is in teenage life. And so
wait, what's the intersection? What am I missing? You're like,
well, there's a lot of sex in music and theater, Sarah. Come on. And
am I missing something? Well, okay, yeah, but not
in teenage life as well. And music and theater is a great expression for kids to talk about. So a lot of my work was focused on getting them to talk about their life issues. And the best way to get them to talk about their life issues is give them a platform, give them something like music or theater and let them express themselves through that. I did a lot of work in terms of like peer education. So they would write their own scripts, talk about their own real life issues, and do the health work through the lens of theater and music, which was a lot of fun. But I did that for a while, and then I had a particularly bad semester in a particularly bad school district, and I was feeling a little crispy around the edges. And so I was still young enough that I had moved back home, and my mom came in one day and was like, I love you, and I'm not going to pay your bills forever. So get off the couch and go find a job. I don't care what you do. Like it can be just the next thing, but you got to get another job and you got to figure it out. And she said, I was just at the vet today with Murph, her dog at the time. And she's like, they have somebody at their front desk who's going on maternity leave. And I asked, Cookie, if they had somebody who was going to fill in. And she said, no. So go over there. And so that was actually how I got started, was our family vet. And I thought, surely I can work at the front desk at a vet clinic. How hard could that be?
Yeah. Easiest job. Everyone's so nice to the receptionist. Yeah. Always. Yeah. Always.
I was like, I like people. I can talk on the phone. Like sure. But I started at the clinic and I absolutely fell in love. And then I never went back.
Okay, wait. So I just need to back up. You were at a rough school. You stopped work. You were like done.
Yeah.
Oh, that was it.
I finished out my contract and was like, I'm not going to go back in the fall. I don't know what I'm going to do next, but I'm going to look for jobs. But it was a lag period of summer. And so nobody was hiring.
Okay. And then your mom was like, no, which is it's tough love, but probably good. Yeah. Like a little bit.
Oh, so it was so good. So good.
So I
ask away.
No, I just you just made me think of something. When I was in high school, I did drama, and there was two guys that I think they thought it was an easy class, or, they came into drama with a bunch of these preppy drama kids. And I was just a kid who kind of moved around different social groups. So yeah, but I mean, I was a nerd, but I was also cool. And I was a cheerleader, but I was a drama kid. And then I was mostly a nerd.
I think we were the same person.
Okay.
I got it. Yeah,
I felt like I could kind of cruise around. I was kind of funny and I kind of, anyway, but it kind of changed them. they were rough kids. They were just in drama to fuck around, honestly. But going through that process and watching them do these monologues, they were actually really good. And it did, I think it changed them. So just what you were saying, I was like, it's actually true. Like exposing all kids to the arts and to ways to express themselves and creativity, like it's a gift.
I taught at juvenile hall. We did a Scared Straight program with the youth services department and youth theater. We actually took the kids to San Quentin and had a group from San Quentin that worked with the kids, and we used theater and arts as the vehicle. And you're spot on it. It's amazing. Even kids who are like, they're in juvenile hall, like they are doing their time. They are not the preppy, straight A students, and they're still kids who need to figure out their life and need to figure out how to work through their problems and express themselves, and giving them being an adult who says, like, I don't care. You can swear, you can do whatever you need to do. Just, I need you to talk. I need you to express yourself because what you're doing is not working. And I feel really fortunate to have had an incredible mentor who exposed me to that belief as like the cool adult who was just like, whatever you need to say can be said, just like talk. And so I tried to, do the same thing, and it is true. It really changes them. And I think that's the cool thing about theater is if you look at any theater program in secondary school, whether it's here in the States or really anywhere in the world, because I taught in Ireland as well in a Catholic school, and it's the same diverse melting pot in a theater class.
Yeah.
Anywhere you go. There's the jocks who are just there to try and get an easy A. There's the like hardcore theater kids who want to go and be a star. There's the weird kids who feel like they don't fit anywhere else, and everybody and everything in between. And there's something about the arts that bring people together in that way. It's one of the things that I love the most about it.
Okay. I'm like tempted to Google it and then have it edited. There's a movie, the Oscar movie. You know the Oscar movie? It's about prison.
So pop culture is not my thing.
Okay, hold on. I'm Googling it. We're going to have to edit this out because it's going to drive me crazy. Theater, prison, Oscar. You should watch it. I saw the thing. I saw the thing on it. It's Sing Sing. Okay, hold on. Okay. Dustin,
all right, Dustin can edit us out.
This out. It just makes me think. I'm sorry, I'm trying to be so natural. Like, I didn't just Google that.
Let me just Google.
It just makes it makes me think of that movie Sing Sing that I haven't seen.
Okay,
but
okay.
I saw
I'll have to add it to the queue.
Yeah, I think there's a morning show that my husband likes to watch, and it was like a whole thing on Sing Sing. But it's basically about bringing theater to prison. It's amazing. Yeah. So, and that movie was nominated for an Oscar. So it's worth watching. But it's kind of the same premise of like just exposing everyone to the arts. Okay, so then Murph had to go to the vet. So then, Cookie got pregnant. Your mom was like, get off the couch.
Yes.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Cookie getting pregnant and Murph having to go to the vet.
Yeah. So it was
shaped your life.
Funny. It did. So I love them to death. So the practice owners, their nicknames were Chick and Cookie. And everybody laughs because when you say it together, it comes out like Chicken Cookie.
Chicken Cookie. Yeah.
But they had kids that were younger than me, but they were practice owners of a small practice in town. But they were the biggest of the 3 practices in town. So they had associate vets, and they were big enough to have, like a true like front desk team that was separate from the tech team and so one of the receptionists who got pregnant was somebody that I had gone to school with. It was that classic, like I grew up in a small town, so everybody knew everybody else. And so when Michelle got pregnant and took maternity leave, and it was just like, okay, yeah, we know your family, you're a client, like, sure, you can fill in at the front desk. And I fell in love with it. I loved the team. I loved the culture in the practice. And I'm so thankful to the Warners for so many of the things that I learned working for them in that practice, but they had a wonderful culture and the clients were great. And it was fun because I'm an outgoing person. And even though I don't like to be on center stage, I love people. And so I, knew a lot of our clients because I went to school with their kids so it was great for me because I could just sit at the front desk and chat with people all day, and I wasn't afraid of technology. So I started at the front desk and really quickly became the like technology person in the practice. I became the practice management software super user. I learned how to use all the computer software, and it kind of grew from there. And I have now in that practice, I worked every position except for becoming a veterinarian. So
Okay.
I did time in the kennel. I wanted to, as I think a lot of people do when you're at the front desk and then you see the medicine. I loved the science and the medicine and I wanted to learn more. And so I actually went to school and became a technician. I went through one of the earliest iterations of AHA's online program, and because I'm 100 years old, and got licensed. And it did not last. I mean, I was licensed for 10 years, but it did not last for me in terms of most technicians do it because they love what they do and they want to be like doing all the cool stuff. They want to be in surgery and they want to be doing anesthesia. And like, that for most technicians, like that's their happy place. I was miserable and I was terrified. And that pit that I have in my stomach when I perform, I had that every single day, feeling like patients' lives were in my hands, and that anxiety was crippling for me. And so I was miserable. And so I was really fortunate to be able to work in a big enough practice that there was space for me to move around. But I loved being in the exam room and I loved educating. And so put me in a room with a client and I will do education all day long. So I stayed a technician, but when I moved from California to Washington, I actually decided to give up my license because it had been a long time since I felt like I was a real tech and did real tech work. But I, became an assistant manager at the practice and then was looking for my next challenge. And so I moved to another practice to become a real practice manager and the sole practice manager. And my second practice taught me everything I ever wanted to know about what not to do when you're trying to run a business or a veterinary practice. And, it's funny because when I tell stories, we call them the Uncharted After Dark stories because they're the wildly inappropriate ones that I can't tell other places unless there's good times and friends and maybe some drinking involved. But, even with those things, people look at me and they're like, why didn't you leave sooner? And the reality is that as hard as it was, I learned a lot of really valuable lessons. And if I had to do it over, I wouldn't undo it. I met incredible people and have some lifelong friends from that clinic. And some of it is true trauma bonding, but, I learned a lot of valuable lessons and it was good for me because I really wanted to kind of grow up and own my own business and do the things. And that clinic gave me the foundation to do that. So I had some kids along the way and moved to a bigger practice and became a part practice owner and, just did the thing. And eventually I had been practicing as a practice manager for, 15 years, I think, maybe, or close to that, when I was again feeling like a little burned out and crispy and looking for something different. And that's actually when I met Andy. And I love to tease him because Dr. Andy Roark is the center stage. He is like you. He loves the attention. And I didn't find out about Uncharted. I mean, I knew who Andy was because I had seen his stuff on social, but I was not a fandy. I was not a fangirl.
A fandy.
But, I had seen his stuff, but I actually found out about Uncharted, which is the conference that he started for business, leadership education. And I found out about it through one of his team at the time. Danielle Lambert was a practice manager and did social media and stuff and was on Andy's team. And at the time, his social media manager. And Danielle reached out to me and she was just like, hey, we're in VHMA, which is the Veterinary Hospital Managers Association. She's like, I think that you would be a really good person to join this thing. Like, we're doing this new thing and it's totally weird and off the wall, but I really think that you would like it. And my whole life is backwards. I like weird and off the wall. And so I went to the website and checked it out. And then Andy did a Facebook Live where he talked about why he started Uncharted. And it just spoke to me. It was wanting to be different, wanting to stop having the same experience over and over again and expecting different results. And I just was in a place in my career where I was looking for something different. And so I went to my practice owners and I said, I want to do this conference for my CE this year. And they were just like, no, this sounds like an Andy fan club. Like, we're not going to pay for it.
Really?
Yeah. And I was like, okay, I'm going to pay for it myself because I am like, I really want to go. I really want to experience this. And so I signed up as an attendee the very first year. And I met Andy it was CVC at the time, Fetch now, in San Diego. And they had a bunch of people who were at that conference that were going to be at Uncharted in the spring. And we did an Uncharted meetup. And that's when I met Andy for the first time. And the direction of my life changed dramatically at that point. But I trust the fates. And I feel like it was meant to be for me to be looking for something different at that point in my career.
Okay, I got to back up. This is a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. I didn't know there would be so much. I was like, this is so much. I didn't know. Okay, I have to correct that Cookie was not the one who was pregnant. Michelle was pregnant.
Yes.
Cookie was
Yes.
the one who was looking
The
for
vet.
replacement. Okay,
Yes.
just a little correction, putting that in.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to back up on a couple of things. Why did you move to Washington? Was that?
So California is hella expensive.
And Washington State?
In Washington State.
You moved to Washington State. Okay.
Yeah, I moved to Washington State, California, living in the Bay Area. My kids, when they were born, Sarah, and I had 2 of them, the first year that they were in daycare, I spent more for daycare for them than I did for 5 years at university.
What?
And yes.
What?
I was working to pay for daycare. And so I was like, it's time to make a change. So we moved to Washington, and I live in the middle of nowhere, and I love it.
Okay. I did something kind of similar, not as drastic, minus kids, but I moved to the Ottawa area and I'm on property now, which was not like I was in the Toronto area, not going to happen. And then Ottawa, outside Ottawa, quite lovely. If anyone wants to come visit me. And you can have property for your crazy dog. So, okay. So that was kind of like, I've heard a lot about that in the news about people like in those kind of really sought after areas. I would say, I guess like New York, San Francisco, and then LA. And people are just like, I can't. Like, and then if you have children, like, they take up space. So
they do space and money and time and
all the things. So okay. So that was kind of, so you moved there. And then I know you, like you said, it's like things you talk about after dark, after drinking, but so you don't have to get into specifics. And I think everyone who's been in probably all of medicine, but I'd say veterinary medicine, like, we have these stories we tell or like things that have happened that have just been like, and I like telling them. I am actually going to the student AVMA this weekend. I'm going to tell some stories to those students.
I love it. They're in for a treat.
Yeah. So, but of crazy, like just crazy stuff that you almost can't even believe it. But like, can you either just say like either a story or like, I find it intriguing because I always say this too, of like learning from bad experiences about what not to do or how not to treat people. Like you can pick any of those. Do you have just like an example of that? Yeah.
So when I started, I had my interview in the boss's bedroom. So he lived in a flat above the clinic. Yeah. So that gives you some kind of sense.
That's like a red flag.
His office was in his bedroom.
What?
I did surgery one day where he came downstairs and did surgery in his underwear. So, things like that just are crazy and off the wall. And like, you never would think that this would be your life, but this was my life.
Was it, okay, can I just ask, like, was it, like, that sounds so sketchy. Was it as sketchy as it sounds, or was the guy just kind of weird? Like,
it was someone who I loved dearly and I still like is an inherently good person and was at a point of crisis in their life. And so a lot of the things that happened were very much like, looking back at where they were, the behavior and all of the off the wall things that felt insane were happening for reasons. It was sketchy, but it was a really nice practice. It was in a really affluent area. Yes. So that's the thing. So it feels like, it's probably like your practice must have been in like, Skid Row and you've got like crazy happening. It was not. It was in a really affluent area of town. It's one of the most affluent areas in the whole Bay Area. We had, millionaire clients. Our prices were top of town. The medicine was, for the most part, really, really high quality. And there were absolutely things that as things transitioned and as things spiraled for the practice owner, like there were things that happened where I was just like, this is absolutely not okay. And I could put up with a lot, but endangering people and endangering patients was like the final straws for me. And I was just like, I can't do this. So it was not sketchy. It was beautiful. It was in a big old Victorian house. I actually loved so much about this practice. It was in a big old Victorian house. And the whole downstairs was the practice and upstairs was a flat. And so,
it's the bedroom.
So he lived upstairs. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yes. And I was like, I am not going to work out of your bedroom. So we're going to make an office space because I'm not going to work out of your bedroom.
That's not going to work for me. Yeah. It's kind of what you're making me. Okay. So you're just making me think of memories. Like at one point, like before I did my residency, my husband and I were both veterinarians in practice. We lived out west and we had thought about buying a practice in Fernie, BC, which is probably one of the most beautiful places in the world. Maybe if I had done that, I'd probably be retired and have sold to corporate and be just skiing every day. So anyway, here I am, still working. That's fine. But we looked at this practice. It was for sale. It was this guy, and it was like it was like connected to a gas station. So like this is what you're making.
Okay.
The guy didn't own the gas
Sketchy.
station. It was just kind of like an office beside literally a gas station. So it smelled like gas. And then like he didn't have X-ray. And we were like, well, okay. So this, I should actually preface this. This is 1997, 98.
Okay. So medicine was radically different than it is now in a lot of ways.
But this was like, yeah, like, but so like we were like, well, what if you have a fracture? And he's like, you can just feel it.
Oh,
and then he would just try to fix it for like, it was just like, I mean, just wild. Anyway, I was like, well, there's no point in buying that practice because there's nothing to buy. Like if I was going to move to Fernie. Anyway, and then things changed. I did residency, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, like you said, like things just happen. You meet someone or you take a job or you decide to make a move or like, and then you just kind of, you keep going. It's just like your life just keeps going. And then, you look back and you're like, what if I would have bought that practice in Fernie? But you didn't. And then here you are.
But
so, okay. I just want to give a quick shout out to our season 5 sponsor, ScribeNote. ScribeNote is the first AI scribe in veterinary medicine, and it's amazing. If you are not using an AI scribe, you guys, you got to get on it. Check out ScribeNote. ScribeNote was founded in March 2023. It's a pretty amazing story. Katie is a veterinarian. Her brother Ryan, who's an engineer, was following her around at work, and he recognized, hey, you vets, you're so inefficient. You're doing everything twice, sometimes 3 times. Let me help you with that. I've used ScribeNote in the exam room. I'll just bring it into the room as an app on my phone and I just let the clients know, and then I can talk to it and basically tell ScribeNote what I'm finding during my physical exam. It records it, it summarizes it, it's all there. If I have to hop to another appointment right away, it doesn't matter. I don't have to worry about remembering it all. ScribeNote's got me covered. It's also been fantastic for me for when I'm calling a client and I need to record that conversation because, we got to record everything now. If I have a 20-minute conversation, after that, I have another 20 minutes of typing. But now, no more because of ScribeNote. So thanks, ScribeNote. Everybody check it out. I promise it'll make your life better. They have already helped with 2 million notes to date. That's millions and millions and millions of minutes that we get back. Thanks, ScribeNote. Okay, so now you've made this connection to a colleague. You're basically like a pretty successful practice manager.
Yeah, I've been practicing for quite a while. I was really involved in like the side of organized medicine for managers. So involved in the National Managers Association with VHMA and ran our local managers group. So community had always been really important to me. And so when Andy talked about Uncharted and wanting to create this community and get people together to be those like hallway conversations that you have when you go to you go to VMX, you go to WC or any of the big conferences and you start talking to your colleagues and something that a speaker says sparks excitement in the audience and you start having those sidebar conversations in your row or you walk out of the hall and you are chatting and then you go grab coffee. The premise behind Uncharted is let's make that the forefront. It's not about who's the smartest person standing at the front of the room. It's about talking about how we are actually doing things in our practice and how do we work together to build community and networks to share those ideas and become better leaders as a result. And so they had an online community and we all got put in it the very first year. It was a simple Facebook group and we all got put in there in the fall. And towards the end of the year, I got an email from Andy's executive admin at the time, Jamie, who is one of my favorite people on the planet. And anybody who knows Jamie Holmes, she's the most efficient human being I've ever met in my life. And she's very like matter of fact to the point. And I got an email from her that said, Andy wants to talk to you. And I was like, oh shit. So my first thought was I'm in trouble for something. Like I've been talking too much in this group. Because I did what I do, which is I'm going to talk to you and I want to know all about you. I want to know about your practice. Like, tell me about your practices. Tell me what you're doing. I was asking a million questions in the group and I thought, oh, I'm talking too much and he's going to tell me I have to shut up. Was really fair. Like, yeah, 100%. That's what I thought. And I get on the phone with Andy and I'm super nervous because other than like our first meeting, we had talked some, but like I didn't know him very well at that point at all. And I just couldn't help myself. And I just blurted out. I was like, I'm so sorry I've been talking so much. If I'm in trouble, I totally understand.
I'm in trouble. Like the police, yes. Facebook police.
I felt like called to the principal's office.
I love it.
Anybody who knows Dr. Andy Roark, he is the most like laid back, funny, relaxed person. And so he is not the principal's office experience. but I totally thought that's what I was in for. And he just starts laughing at me. And when he was done laughing, he was like, no, actually, I would like to offer you a job because
Nice.
you have been doing some of our job for us, and I would like to pay you for it.
That's so cool.
So I started working with the team that first year. And by the time we had the first conference, I was part of the team, but I was still working in practice. So I did both for 4 years. And then when COVID hit, I was working full-time in the practice, trying to basically work full-time for Uncharted and homeschool my two kids because COVID and mom life. And I was like, I'm going to break.
Yeah, it's
and
too many
so,
things.
Yeah. And so Andy and I had a talk and said, maybe it's time for me to go full-time and let's see what happens, and made the leap. And then for the last 4 years, I've just been working for Uncharted full time. So have been the director of education and community. And so I put together all of our content for our conferences, run workshops. I do a lot of the teaching and education on the business management side in particular, but I also help gauge and involve and grow our community. So it's been an amazing experience, and I've grown so much, and never would have thought that day that I met Andy in San Diego that my direction would change, because I thought I'm going to be a practice manager forever.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting. So that conference that your bosses were like, we're not paying for you to go and be an Andy
fangirl, yeah.
Which you weren't really, but they were like, we're not paying for it. And you're like, well, I'll just pay. You didn't end up, you were there working at that point.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So you were like, okay. So I find that really interesting, because you kind of were like, no, there's something, because I think a lot of people would have been like, maybe not happy about it, but if they were told you're not doing that for your CE, they just would have been like, okay. Like, you just have been like, okay, I'll do something else. So yeah.
I don't take no very well. I don't take no for an answer very
actually. Well. Yeah, I don't either. I think that's kind of a good policy, is like, especially if it's, well, I think sometimes the no tells you something, right? Like the no, obviously you were like, well, then I'll just, like, I'm going to pay for it. Like, that's how much I want to go. It's not like I'm just like, oh, this is in Hawaii and I want to go to Hawaii. I don't really care. You're like, no, this conference, for some reason, this is speaking to me. Yes. So, yeah.
And I understood their reasoning from the perspective of, they looked at it and they were like, this is brand new. It's experimental. There's not really like any big names involved. I'm not really sure what you're going to get out of it and bring back to the practice. And I was like, I could understand that. And from an investment in education and development in the practice, their answer made perfect sense to me. And it didn't mean that I had to accept the answer as the answer from that perspective. Like, I got it, I respected it, and also was like, well, there's something here for me in terms of being different and trying something different. And I also, was knowing that I was looking for a change career-wise and development-wise. And so I was like, this feels weird and experimental enough that, like, I'm in. Let's do it.
Okay, so then you became part of the team. And I could sort of see, like, your theater background is obviously, like, I don't know if you can talk to that a little bit. Like, you're kind of this production manager as a theater production manager, but now you're, like, pivoting. So how did you use your experience to kind of work in Uncharted? Yeah.
So that part was great, because I felt like when I was in the practice, I feel like I used my theater management skills in the people side, right? So dealing with temper tantrums from actors, no different than dealing with meltdowns from clients or team members who aren't getting along. Like, the people skills translate across the board. Yeah. And the business skills, like, sure, running a theater has radically different budget structure in some ways from a veterinary hospital, but both of them are very high overhead industries and low profit margin industries in the true sense. So your typical theater, yes, it makes a ton of money, but it costs a ton of money. So does veterinary medicine. And so the business lessons, the people lessons, that all helps me in the practice every day. And so every time, my dad would get on a kick and be like, sure glad you got that theater degree. And I'm like, listen, I use it every day. But when I started working for Uncharted, all of these other things that I had done in my life came into play. So, putting together events and knowing all of the, like, ins and outs of the event industry, and having lived in that theater and that production world became invaluable to me in terms of running things and supporting the team in Uncharted. And so being able to, make schedules and think about it from the logistics lens And there was a point in time where Andy and I had the conversation about, do I want to run the events piece? Like, do I want to step into that role? And I could have done it. I had the skill set, right? My theater background set me up perfectly to do that. I can work with vendors. I can make it, pretty, and I can make a show out of anything. And it had been so long since I had been in that world. And what I had realized was that the people is really at the heart of it now for me. And I didn't want to step away from getting to work with the community and the team.
Okay.
And so we started working with an event planner and started doing other things to support the team in that regard, and realizing, like, let's maximize the talents that we have on the team in the best way we can. But I used all of that every day. Creating lesson plans obviously is the same as a teacher, whether I'm teaching veterinary medicine or I'm teaching, in high school sex ed. It's just a different topic. The skill set is the same. But I think the people lessons, the management lessons, and honestly, the empathy that theater taught me and the patience with people, I use it every day.
Oh, that's cool. So, okay. So, and you guys had a podcast, or you still have your podcast?
We still have the podcast. So I'm actually, when you and I are recording this, I am in the process of, today is my official last day with Uncharted.
Oh my God. Okay. I knew it was coming.
It is the official
Oh, wow.
day.
That's, it feels very
unofficially,
auspicious.
I know.
It feels auspicious. Okay. Well, that's okay. Okay.
But it is good. It's good. So I'm leaving Uncharted. It's time for me to fly the nest. So I've been working with Uncharted for 8 years.
Okay.
And I've been working full time for 4, and I've grown so much. And Andy has given me an incredible amount of opportunity, and the experience has afforded me the opportunity to meet so many amazing people and grow in so many ways. And I'm ready for the next step developmentally. Like, I've always been a student. I've always been someone who doesn't do well without having a challenge or, wanting to grow and educate myself. And where the team and the company is at, it's not the right timing for me to make the next move, kind of the way that we were planning and had, thought we might be able to. And so, it was really hard for me to get to that place. But Andy and I sat down and had a variety of conversations. And I just said, it's okay if getting what I need means that I have to leave. And that was really hard for both of us, because we are really, really close friends as well as colleagues. And I love our team and I love our work. I love what we do with Uncharted, but it's time. Today is my official last day, but we're still doing the podcast.
Okay.
And so we podcast weekly, and I'm ready for the next adventure. I have no idea what that is going to be yet, but
really?
Yes.
Okay. Wait.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to back up. Okay. Let's talk about your podcast a bit. Can you just tell everyone about, and also, I feel like maybe we didn't, I think we need to explain 2 things, which now it's a bit late.
Sorry, everybody who's been listening.
I think people can kind of glean what our Uncharted is, but I don't think we really defined it. So can you just really quickly just define what is Uncharted, and then tell us the name of your podcast and what about the podcast? Yeah.
Yeah. So unchartedvet.com, you should check out the website because it's real cool. So we take veterinary leaders, whether they have an official title or not. If you want to develop yourself as a leader in veterinary practice, bring them together into a community, and we do a conference and summits, workshops, continuing education. So it's a continuing education company at its heart, but really it's about the community and bringing people together to learn how to be better leaders and grow and develop themselves. And so leadership education is kind of how I define it for people. The Uncharted Veterinary Podcast, Andy and I started, I don't even know how long we've been doing it. We're at 300 something episodes, and we talk about the business side of veterinary medicine, the leadership side, the hard lessons. We've got a mailbag, so people send us, hey, how would you handle this in your practice kind of questions. We talk about life lessons from things that we're going through with the team or in the practice. This last couple of years, I've been dabbling doing some locum practice managing, so relief work for people who are practice managers, which for anybody who knows veterinary medicine or medicine in general, if a professional like a doctor like you, Sarah, or a technician, somebody who has a license has to go on vacation or be out sick or whatever, you have to have a person who has the same skill set to replace them. And so there's a whole field for people who provide relief services and temporary fill-ins for those people who have licenses. But there's never been something for the paraprofessional staff who are unlicensed. And so as a practice manager, I know what it feels like to feel like I never got to actually take a vacation, and I was always on call and never truly could unplug. And some of that was not having my own boundaries, but some of it was also just the way we're set up. And so the last few years I've been doing that and going in and helping friends in their practices, whether they were going on a long vacation or somebody had a maternity leave or whatever. And so I've been dabbling in that for the last couple years, and it's been great because I love being in the practice, and it's so fun to be on the floor and working with a team. And it's been great for the podcast because I get the I get the inspiration and the stories and the things that are happening on the floor. So
that's what you're doing right now, because you're in San Francisco.
Yes,
that
I am
brings
in
us
San
back to
Francisco.
my question from the beginning.
Yes.
I was like, why are you in San Francisco? So
circling all the way back.
That's very interesting to me, because in some ways, like, what I've done some locum work, and it's kind of cool because the thing I liked about it was, like, I didn't really have to deal with crap because I was like, I was a locum. It was amazing how many people unloaded crap on the locum. Like, I was always amazed. Like, I was just like, people were like, what do you think of this? And they would tell me stuff, and I'm like, I don't actually.
Because you're the outside person. So they just tell you everything.
And like, I very distinctly remember a locum at a couple of universities, because there's always some like deep-rooted hatred, I don't think it's too strong a word, between people, and you kind of watch it, you're like, whoa, and happy to not be a part of it, right? But I had there was a big conflict, and they both were coming to me, but to get my opinion, and I was like, yeah, you're both wrong.
Yeah.
You guys need to sort out your shit. Like, I don't know what else to tell you.
Go take it over there and figure it out. You're both
wrong. Like, in different ways, you're wrong. You're wrong, and you're wrong. So that, like, I don't know if they like that answer, but I was like, that's what I'm getting. That's
Give it to them.
That's the answer that you're getting from me. Like, you both are at fault in your own way, and you need to work together, and I don't need to work with you. So
Bye.
But if you're a manager, you might get plunked into, like, are you given a mandate or like a license to kind of, I mean, a license in a figurative sense, but like, are you licensed to come and be like, deal with, like, are you just dealing with fires, or are you dealing with like day to day? Yeah.
It depends. So it depends on the practice and the setup, but like some of them are like, you be me, like, you're my proxy. I trust your decisions, like, figure it out. Some of them are like, I just need an adult in the building so that if something gets set on fire, like, there's an adult here to handle it.
Okay.
And everything in between. And so what I'm in San Francisco right now. I'm working with a clinic, and I'm actually have taken on a more longer term locum role. It's a big practice, and they're in the search for a hospital administrator, and finding the right person is important in any hospital, but especially in a big giant hospital with 100 people. And so I'm going to be regularly filling in until you find the right person, then they, get their feet under them and get started. So I'm doing all of the things. It might be something that's on fire. It might just be hanging out and listening to the team and talking with them and kind of filling some of those gaps. Because as the manager, like, there's so much that falls in your plate. And even when a manager's on vacation, it feels like shit goes sideways. Imagine being in a practice that doesn't have a manager because somebody's on maternity leave for 2 months, or somebody moves, and then they're trying to find another person to fill the spot, and they have to relocate, and it's a 3-month process. Like, the amount of stuff that can fall apart in a veterinary practice in 3 months is huge. And so it's different with every practice.
Okay, that's really cool. That's so cute. Maternity leave for 2 months.
Yeah. I mean,
sorry, I'm just like, what?
I know. Well, because and I would say 2 months would have felt like an amazing blessing because I took 5 weeks, So it's the differences between the US and that's a whole other podcast.
That's a whole other podcast.
We can do a whole podcast.
It's just like, it just made me laugh when you're like, I'm maternity leave, and like my head's a year, and you're like 2 months. So okay, I have another couple questions. Because you haven't really talked about corporate, and I don't know if you've worked corporate, vet med, or like again, probably a whole other podcast, but I don't know if you have a hot take.
Yeah.
On corporate.
So I do. So mine is a really, probably, a lot of people find it offensively radical. A lot of my independent practice friends, but I have worked both sides. I've worked private practice. I've worked corporate practice. And my take is, there are horrible practices on both sides of the coin. There are horrible private practices. I have worked in several of them. There are horrible corporate practices. My experience with corporate was actually a great experience. I had a practice that had been a horrible private practice that sold to corporate. And after one of my best friends was another local manager and helps them kind of turn it around after they bought it. And it was a dumpster fire. And when enough time had gone by, she asked me, would you take this clinic? I said, I wouldn't touch it with a 100-foot pole. But after about a year of hard work on her part, she asked me again, and I was ready for a change. And I said, sure. And I worked for NVA for years and had a great experience working for them. And so my take on it is that there is absolutely a place, and there are some corporate groups who have done incredible things for the hospitals that they're buying, for the teams that they are supporting. So my team, for example, they didn't get any benefits as a private practice. They had nothing. Like they didn't even get paid time off.
Oh
And
my
when they
God.
were acquired by NVA, they all got pay raises, they got health benefits, they got paid time off. So their lives were immeasurably changed by the influence of corporate. And so I think I totally see a place for it. And I see a place for independent practices. I think we need both. I think both are, there's a lot that we can learn from each other. And so I have come at it as a person on a personal level, and as a person in the industry, and certainly from my position with Uncharted, from the perspective of, hey, we need to quit like fighting and pitting ourselves against each other and figure out what we can learn from each other, because they're shitty on both sides of the coin. And if we can start looking at the shitty for what it is and stop looking at it as corporate is the devil and independent medicine is the angel, and find the middle ground, we'll all be better off as a result.
Okay. No, I like that answer. I mean, having come up, like I told you about the gas station guy, like it's not like it was
Yep.
it's not like it was perfect.
Right.
And then there's a reason why corporate kind of swooped in and was like, hey,
Right.
here's an opportunity, like
Yes.
because
Yes.
some of us weren't doing so well. And I, respect to Chick and Cookie, but some of those husband wife teams running a practice, like
Super messy.
awful.
Yes.
Like I just am like,
Yes.
because like when I was coming up, I actually worked. It was the worst job I ever had. It's a long story. I got fired. Anyway, that's a long story. But his wife was like managed. It was just, it was a freaking
Really common.
nightmare. So common
Yes.
and such a nightmare. And like,
Yes.
yeah, I was like, the only solace I had was that I was like, either he's going to have to live with her for the rest of his life or divorce her, and she's going to take everything. And I was like, I don't even know what happened to him, but I'm like, one of those two things happened, I'm sure. So anyway, yeah, it was a freaking nightmare. So, I mean, corporate would have been better than that experience I had. Okay.
Or it might have been worse. And that's the thing, is that it's all about the people. And the reality is we need to do a better job as a whole, independent of who owns and where the buck stops at the end of the day. We need to do a better job as an industry, developing and educating and supporting our leaders to actually be leaders of people and have the skill set to be able to do that. And so that's, now I'm taking all of what I learned in theater and the arts, all of what I've learned as a practice manager, and working in that vein to try and grow and develop leaders in all of the ways that I was never had the lesson. I learned the hard way. So
yeah, I feel like you're going to do something big, and like maybe but you can't talk about it. Is that true? Sure, Stephanie.
This would be a good place to like announce it.
Sarah, I know, like I feel like you're gonna be like, I'm gonna work for like some big thing, and then you're gonna like make it better, make corporate better.
Like I really mean it. I'm really trying to walk my talk as a human, as a leader, and as a person who has been teaching the lessons in Uncharted for the last few years. Like I'm really trying to be intentional about what is next, because it's not because I'm not leaving Uncharted because things are bad. Yeah. Like I love my team. I love Andy. I love our community. I'm just ready for that next step. And I'm not entirely sure what that next step is going to be. I just know I'm ready for some growth and development that isn't an opportunity for me right now in Uncharted. And that's okay. And so I'm being intentional about taking my time and exploring the options.
Mars family, if you're listening and you would like your corporate practices to be better than they are, I suggest you contact Stephanie Goss.
Anyone, if there's listeners out there who are like, hey, I would like to give Stephanie a job, I'm open to work.
Yes. No, I want you to fix some things. I have some jobs for you.
Some jobs.
I have some jobs for you. Okay. I can't ask you my second last question. Well, I guess I could. Like, do you ever see, like, theater's kind of been left behind, but you're still using it, but do you ever see yourself going back to the arts or creativity?
I do. So I'm so glad that you asked that question. Yes, I always said for myself, so along the way I had a couple of kids, and life gets crazy and messy, and I'm very much in the stage still where they need me. They're starting to drive, which is frightening AF. And there's going to be a time soon where they won't need me as much. And I'm terrified and excited for that at the same time. But I always said when they were little, I was like, I tried to do a couple of like local community productions, and I just couldn't get it together. I am not that mom. I'm the hot mess mom. And so I told myself that when they are in high school and driving and like don't need me to do all of the things, that is something that I want to do, because I definitely miss it.
Okay, cool.
So
I love it.
there will be a day. Yep.
There will be a day. Okay.
There will be a day.
Okay. I think we're at the last, I know you have to get to work soon. So at the last question, which I don't know if you know, but there's like the last question I asked, and it's probably never going to happen, Stephanie, but maybe you can convince him, trying to get Ken Jeong to be a guest on Comedicine.
Okay.
So you're not even talking to me. You're not talking to anyone listening. You're only talking to Ken. He's my dream guest. Although,
okay,
maybe not. You know, I might give up on him next season because I've heard nothing crickets
from him.
So I may have to just let it go. But for now, for season 5, could you please just invite Ken Jeong to come on the program?
Yes. So Ken, I have to tell you, I know like next to zero about pop culture. Like I'm the person on our team where all pop culture references are lost on me. I don't watch TV. I don't watch movies, like all of the things. You are my favorite GIF. He is literally, I use him. There's a GIF of him and I use it every single day. And so I would say, even for somebody who has not seen your body of work, who doesn't know who you are, except for you're my GIF guy, like you should come on Sarah's podcast because it is amazing. And I would listen to that podcast. That is a piece of pop culture that I would willingly engage with.
What's the GIF?
It's where he's sitting at the desk and leaning backwards, and he's like, it's like a teacher. He's in like a teacher's desk.
Okay.
And he says, "I'll allow it." And so "I'll allow it" is like my favorite,
your go-to.
My favorite gift. It's my go-to.
Okay. Well, that's a good invitation. Yeah. Probably from Community.
That's all I got.
That's all you got for Ken. Okay, Ken. Well, I hope that Ken hears this. And maybe it'll be the thing. He'll be like, "Oh, I'm a gift guy. That's cool." Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, you know.
Yeah. I know we've kind of known who each other are, but it's been great to get to see you and to talk to you.
Sarah.
So
thank you.
Thank you. Good luck with everything you do. I hope that you fix veterinary medicine.
One practice at a time. One practice at a time, Sarah.
Okay. It's been great. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
And that wraps up another episode of Comedicine. Thank you so much for listening. It is great having you here. If you have been listening to Comedicine from the beginning, thank you. If you're new to Comedicine, thank you and welcome to our Comedicine community. It is wonderful to have you here. I want to just give a shout out to Mark Edwards, who wrote the music for Comedicine. He's a comedian, an actor, a musician. He's going to be famous, you guys. And then you'll be like, is that the same Mark Edwards? And I'll be like, yeah. He's my friend, you guys. I know him. And he wrote the song. He's amazing. Also, big shout out to Dustin Bays. Thank you for editing the show and producing it. I appreciate you because I don't know how to do that stuff and I don't want to learn. Yes, it's willful ignorance, I think, at this point, but I'm so glad Dustin is here with me, helping me out with the show. And thank you for being here. If you enjoyed this episode, please like it, share it, do all the things, review it. If you're a sponsor or a potential sponsor, call me. That would be great. If you don't like the show, I don't know why you're still here.